In every civilization that has ever lifted its eyes to the sky, one haunting question has echoed through temples, scrolls, and the human imagination. What came first? The light that reveals the world, or the darkness that hides it? Imagine a time before gods had names, before stars carved silver wounds into the night, before the first breath of creation trembled in the void. It is here, in this impossible silence, that humanity placed its earliest gods, siblings born from the same cosmic womb, twins of opposing nature whose rivalry shaped the heavens. And whether you look to Greece, Japan, India, Mesopotamia, or the forgotten myths of the ancient Mediterranean, one truth returns again and again like an echo refusing to die. Light and darkness were never enemies. They were family. Yet this family always stood on the edge of catastrophe. This is the untold story of creation's first siblings, a saga of harmony, betrayal, death, rebirth, and cosmic balance, whispered in myths that survived fire, war, and time itself. Welcome to this exciting episode of the channel The Eternal Odyssey, where we explore the stories of myths and fantasies. Chapter 1, The Greek Dawn, Nyx and Hemera. In the beginning of Greek cosmology, before Zeus, before Kronos, before the Titans even had a word for war, there was chaos, a swirling nothingness, pregnant with possibility and terror. From chaos rose Nyx, the night, a goddess so powerful even Zeus feared her shadows. She was not simply darkness, she was mystery, inevitability, the soft veil that both protects and consumes. And from her, or alongside her, depending on the poet you trust, came Hemera, the day, a being of radiant clarity who peeled away Nyx's cloak each morning so the world could awaken. Every dawn was described as a changing of the guard, Nyx returning to her cavern as Hemera emerged, the two passing each other silently, respectfully, like siblings who understood they ruled different halves of existence. But imagine the tension. The ancient poets whispered, imagine the cosmic choreography that kept the world from falling apart. If Nyx lingered too long, mortals fell into despair. If Hemera arrived too early, the world blistered in relentless exposure. Light and darkness danced not as rivals, but as partners trying to keep the fragile world alive. Their delicate exchange became a blueprint across cultures, preserved long after the Greek temples fell to dust. Chapter 2, The Japanese Divide, Izanagi's descent, and the birth of light, half a world away. Japan would tell a different, but strikingly familiar story. In the Kojiki, the oldest chronicle of Japan, the universe began with shapeless chaos, slowly separating into heaven and earth, like oil pulling away from water. From this separation emerged the divine siblings Izanagi and Izanami, tasked with creating the islands of Japan and populating them with gods. But creation always comes at a cost. When Izanami died giving birth to Kagetsuchi, the fire god, Izanagi plunged into Yami, the land of darkness, to bring her back. It was a journey into the shadows that would mirror myths from Greece to Sumeria, a descent into grief as old as humanity itself. But unlike Orpheus, unlike Balder, unlike Persephone, the reunion was a nightmare. Izanami's body had begun to rot, crawling with thunderous demons. Horrified, Izanagi fled, sealing the entrance to Yomi with a massive boulder, separating the realms forever from the filth of death clinging to his skin. Izanagi purified himself in a sacred river, and in that act of cleansing, new gods were born. From one eye came Amaterasu, the radiant sun. From another came Tsukuyomi, the cold moon. And from his nose came Susanoo, the storm. But in a detail often overlooked, older texts describe Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi not merely as sun and moon, but as two sides of purity, light and darkness once more born of the same divine source. Their relationship, like Nyx and Hemera, was a balancing act, their separation. When Tsukuyomi killed the goddess of food, marked the division of day and night. Light and darkness were no longer passing each other in the doorways of heaven. They were divorced forever, destined to rule from opposite ends of the sky. Chapter 3, the Indian twins, Yama, Yami, and the first night. Yet the most striking tale of divine twins comes from India, where Yama and Yami, born of the sun god Surya, represent life's most difficult paradox. In the Rig Veda, Yama becomes the first mortal to die, stepping into the uncharted territory of the afterlife so that others could follow a path he carved. His twin sister Yami is devastated and begs the gods to bring him back. She argues that as twins, they were never meant to be separated. The gods refuse. And when Yami's grief threatens to drown the world, they create night for the first time, so she cannot mourn endlessly under the relentless gaze of the sun. But here lies the cosmic metaphor. The birth of night was not punishment, but healing, a blanket of darkness meant to ease suffering. Light, represented by the eternal presence of the sun, was to harsh, to revealing, to constant. Darkness became the gift that allowed rest. Through this lens, Yama and Yami stand as another divine reminder that creation requires duality. Too much light destroys, too much darkness consumes. Only balance sustains life. And this theme, light and dark as siblings, partners, equals, echoes through Hindu cosmology again and again. Shiva and Shakti, Vishnu and his shadow form, the Devas and Asuras, all mirror the same truth. Creation emerges from tension, not dominance. Chapter 4, Egypt's forgotten pair, Shu and Tefnut. Even the ancient Egyptians, obsessed with cosmic order, encoded this duality in their earliest myths. But before Ra sailed across the sky, before Osiris ruled over the dead, there was a pair of primordial siblings, Shu, the god of air and light, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture and darkness. They were born from Atum's breath in the void, representing the first split of opposites. Clarity and obscurity, dryness and dampness, the seen and unseen. Their union produced Geb and Nu, earth and sky, and in this way, existence unfolded layer by layer from the marriage of opposites. But older papyri suggests something more mysterious, that Shu and Tefnut once lost each other. In the swirling chaos of the early world, when they were finally reunited, Atum wept tears of joy, and from those tears, humanity was born. In other words, humans were created not from light, nor from darkness, but from the moment the two were reconciled. Chapter 5, the global pattern, when light and darkness mirror each other. As these stories echo across continents, a pattern emerges. Creation is never depicted as an explosion of light obliterating darkness. It is not a victory. It's a negotiation, a fragile treaty between forces that cannot exist alone. The Mesopotamians spoke of Tiamat and Abzu, saltwater and freshwater, darkness and clarity, whose union birthed the first gods before chaos tore them apart. The Celts told of Danu and Dawn, the mother goddess of rivers and the shadow god of the underworld, whose children shaped Ireland. Even the Mayans described the divine twins Hanapu and Xbalanque playing ball in the threshold between daylight and the underworld, their trials forging the cycle of the sun itself. Light and darkness as siblings is not just myth, it is psychology, it is physics, it is the story of every sunrise you have ever seen and every shadow you have ever feared. We imagine light as good and darkness as evil, but the ancients saw them as co-creators, bound together from the first heartbeat of the cosmos. There is no dawn without night, no revelation without mystery, no creation without destruction. And so these myths warn us gently. Do not seek a world of endless light. That is not illumination, it is blindness. A world without darkness is a world without rest, without depth, without contrast. But equally, a world of endless shadow is a world without growth, without guidance, without warmth. Creation lives between them. Life is the corridor where they pass each other. Humanity is the child of both. Chapter 6, Creation's First Siblings, the Eternal Balance. As we close this journey through ancient memory, let us return to the image that began it all. Two siblings, walking past each other at the door of the universe, exchanging responsibility with a glance. Nyx and Hemera, Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, Yama and Yami, Shu and Tefnut. Their stories are not just myths, but mirrors. They remind us that everything meaningful in this world comes from balance, that our own souls contain both radiance and shadow, that to deny either is to fracture the self. And perhaps that is why these ancient stories still live, carried in rituals, festivals, art, and whispers. Because deep down, we recognize the truth they carried across millennia. We were made from conflict, shaped by contrast, and kept alive by the eternal dance of what we can see and what we cannot. The universe, in all its terrifying beauty, is not a battle between light and dark. It is a family portrait. And if this exploration of creation's siblings moved you, intrigued you, or opened your eyes to the ancient world in a new way, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the myths are far from finished, and neither are we. Thank you.